Hi, this is Aulbrie Sass for Pambazuka News. Today I'm at the Oxfam International offices here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. I had the pleasure of speaking with the head of office, Mr. Desiree Assogbavi, about how Oxfam works with the African Union. We talked a little bit about what he thinks are the major accomplishments, as well as missed opportunities that he's seen in the Union over the past 50 years, as well as things to come in the future and how the African Union can continue to better itself. Thank you so much, Mr. Desiree Assogbavi, Head of Office of Oxfam, for chatting with me today.
You're welcome.
To get things started, I'd like to ask you, in your opinion, what are the key achievements of the African Union over the past 50 years, or for as long as you've been working with the AU?
If we talk about 50 years, then we are forced to go back to the OAU, the Organization of African Unity. And that one was created with a very clear objective of finalizing the decolonization of the continent, fight for the independence of the few other countries that remain under the colonialism. That was the main objective of the Organization of African Unity, created in the 1963. Now, this objective has been achieved because at the evening of the creation of the AU in the year 2000, all African countries were independent. Apartheids were killed in South Africa, so that was the main things. Of course, we can talk about integrations, which is also part of the agenda of the OAU, but the integration is a long process that, of course, was started with the OAU. Now, around the year 2000, the Constitutive Act of the AU was adopted. There was a big shift that needs to be highlighted. The AU now start talking about human rights, talking about prosperity, talking about peace in the continent. And most importantly, the AU was talking about citizen participation. So it was the first time in the history of the whole African agenda that the continental policy insists on a people-driven organizations. So that was a big shift. Today we are celebrating the 50 years anniversary of the creation of the OAU. But since the AU is a continuation of the OAU, OAU itself was created around the year 2000, realization around the year 2002. Now the AU has set up clear objectives about fighting against poverty, prosperity of the citizens, human rights, democracy, good governance, people's participations. So we should judge the AU against those objectives. We already know what the what the OAU were created for. Now the AU we're looking more at the new dynamic. So on that one, it is approximately 10 years now when the AU that we have now are created. In terms of achievement, I'll say there are, a strong forum. There's a strong forum around which citizens can discuss. We're given the opportunity to discuss the issues that the continent is facing. There seems to be a clear leadership and clear programs splitted in various subjects, including peace and security, economic affairs, political affairs, gender equality, science and technology. Those has been very clearly defined. I will also mention that over the last 10 years since the creation of the AU, very strong policies were adopted. Strong and progressive policies. I compare some of the policies adopted within the AU with some of the policy adopted around the UN, for example. Policy against corruptions, gender equality, children's rights, Charter on Democracy and Elections, just to mention those. We have seen good frameworks that aim to promote, small-scale agriculture. And many of those things were adopted, I believe, genuinely. So one of the key achievements is to put policy down and clearly define the objectives or where they want to be. The other achievement I can mention is that the EU succeeded in imposing itself as a key player in the global arena. Things of global concern, for example, climate change, UN reform, peace and security in general. EU has become a very good and strong interlocutor within the global arena. Those are the few things that I can mention as achievement. And it's very important to look at the challenges as well. So the challenges are serious as well. When the EU were created, it gave a lot of hope to citizens. Imagine in the Constitutive Act, it's very written that the EU will be a people-driven organization. Unlike the OAU, that was the business of states representative only. Under the OAU, Idi Amin can be killing his own people, but the next day he comes to Addis Ababa, he'll have his red carpet. Yeah? Mm-hmm. But at least today under the AU, it's no more a case. There's a strong principle called the principle of non-indifference, which kind of diverted from the principle of non-interference under the OAU. So those key principles are good to be seen. But then people, citizens, ordinary people within the continent are yet to see concrete realizations. They really do not yet see concrete change in their everyday life as a consequence of the creation of the AU. It is a big shame that 10 years after the creation of the AU, African citizens are still not able to pick up their bag and just circulate within their own continent to visit their friends, visit the other countries freely without obstacle. So issue about visa, boundary, it's so many obstacles for people to go around the continent without problems. So this is something that we're part of the hope that African citizens have at the creation of the EU. The EU has tried a lot to deal with the issue of peace and security in the continent. It did not get much better so far. As we're talking today, depending on which angle you are taking in your analysis, but the situation on peace and security is not brilliant at all. So there's something to be done. But this is seriously linked to something else. So we can't just see issue of peace and security like that. There was a problem. There's a problem of governance. And most of the conflicts that you have in a continent are the result of bad governance. Most of them. Bad governance, bad leadership, unfair sharing of national resources. Those are very clear. And I believe those are the areas where the EU have not done great. And as we are kind of preparing, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the African integrations, I think those are serious issues that to come on the table. To like how do we take stock of the past and make the future brighter. This is roughly how I can, do an analysis or stock taking of the African Union as we are now.
Can you tell me what Oxfam does in relation with the AU, how they popularize the Union and make it known to Africans?
Thank you. Around 10 years ago, when the OAU were transformed to the AU with the objective of putting together people-driven organizations, seeking for peace and prosperity for the continent, work on the integration of the continent, fight against poverty. Oxfam believe that the EU, those objectives need to be supported, and the EU is an organization that needs basically to be supported, to be pushed, for the realization of those great objectives. We have then decided, to enter into relations, into collaboration with the continental body, and we have put down 2 key objectives. The first one is to use Oxfam experience of working in the continent over the last 30 years or so, to make a contribution in the work of the AU. The second one, also related to the AU objectives, is to support the implication of citizens in the decisions that concern their life. This means push for the realization of the objective of a people-driven organizations. That means make sure that citizens understand the African Union, they know the ways by which they can contribute in the work and the decision-making process of the AU. So we have then entered into a memorandum of understanding with the African Union, and also we have signed a bilateral agreement with the government of Ethiopia for the establishment of a liaison office here in order to work together with the AU and support their program. We have been working on this for the last 7 years, and we believe we have done some contributions. The collaboration with the AU has been very great and very genuine, and we have achieved a lot together. So in terms of program, we manage 2 different programs here. The first one, I'll call it active citizenship, and I tried to explain that before, is to support the ordinary citizens, citizen groups, coalition organizations, to be able to play a role within the AU as it was planned in the Constitutive Act of the AU. Through that program, we organize a number of training. We produce documents that explain what the AU is and how decisions are taken, what are the various avenues by which citizens can intervene and play a role within the AU. We also have other programs such as the secondment program, where a citizen from African organization can come and sit in our office and do their own work vis-à-vis the AU. We produce a daily, weekly, and monthly information documents in terms of explaining the ongoing agenda issues in the African Union. The second pillar of our program here in Addis is on peace and security and humanitarian issues. As I said before, Oxfam has been working in Africa for the last 30 years or so, and we have operational program in more than 30 countries in the continent. So basically, we're trying to use those experiences to inform the decision-making process of the EU, to support that process, and to contribute as much as we can. So these include, bringing analysis from the countries where we work, mostly where conflicts are going on now. We have been focusing essentially on 5 countries: the Democratic Republic of Congo, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, and recently Mali, talking about conflicts. Oxfam has a broader Pan-African program in which this office fits, and that broader Pan-African program covers other stuff such as economic justice, issues of climate change, supporting small-scale agriculture, issue of gender equality, and issue of financing for development around essential services, basic services. So those are broadly what Oxfam does in relation with the African Union.
Perfect, thank you. Could you tell me, maybe in just 1 minute, what do you think, in your opinion, that the African Union should focus on in the next 50 years? They have a vision called 2063, Africa Unity, and so I'm wondering what you think they need to focus on.
To give an opinion on that, I will go back to the sources of the problems that we have in Africa now. And I'll continue emphasis on the issue of governance. Over the last few years, the AU has put together what they call shared value. And those are very ambitious and courageous ideas. Among those shared value are issue of governance, fair and just elections, gender equality, and so on. If the AU become more and more serious on the issue of governance, ensuring genuine democracy and accountability to people, I believe the Africa we have today will be different in the next 50 years. So that is like a strong point we should be insisting on.